Okay, it's 12 o'clock, so I would like to call the December meeting of the Kootenai County Hospital District Board to order. And I have a statement to read before we get too far into this, so bear with me. My name is Katie Brody, and I'm the chair of the Kootenai Health Board of Trustees. I want to welcome you to today's meeting and review the format we will follow. The purpose of today's board meeting is to have final discussion, review of a draft resolution, and take a vote on Kootenai Health's legal structure and proposed transition from a district hospital to a nonprofit 501c3. This consideration's been thoroughly researched, and the majority of the board members are prepared to vote on this today. Just to be perfectly clear, per Idaho Code 39-1359, the decision to transition to a 501c3 nonprofit corporation can be made by the hospital district's board of trustees who have been elected by county residents. Our consideration of this conversion was made available to all Idaho hospital districts effective July 1 of this year. This is consistent with Idaho Code 31-3508, which has afforded this same right and responsibility to boards of county hospitals since 1986. It's our full intent to conduct this meeting with the professionalism and decorum appropriate for a meeting of this nature. Per our board public comment policy, anyone wishing to address the board must provide his or her comments in writing to the district administration at least 3 days in advance of this meeting. Having received no requests to comment, we will not be taking comments at today's meeting. As attendees of this meeting, this is your opportunity to listen and observe. There will be no participation from the audience. That includes cheering, jeering, and clapping. We ask you to conduct yourself with civility and decorum. If behavior becomes problematic, it will be addressed so the meeting can continue. As a final note, you are welcome to view the frequently asked questions document, the 501c3 white paper, or submit questions about 501c3 at kh.org-501c3. So, John, you have
I do.
comments.
So the first item today, this is bittersweet for me. So our longstanding Chief Financial Officer, Kim Webb, who's joined us by WebEx today, is retiring. And I just wanted to make some comments about her contributions to Kootenai Health. So Kim, can you hear us okay?
I can, thank you.
Okay. So congratulations. I just wanted to personally thank you on behalf of the administrative team and your finance division and the board for all your contributions. So just by way of background, so Kim joined us June 25th, 2012. And during that period of time had a very significant and positive impact on Kootenai Health. She was the individual responsible for working on all the debt financing, which enabled us to do the East expansion and many of our growth related projects. And her expertise and management and oversight of that was just really key for us. She also created the strategic planning function at Kootenai Health within the finance division, which has been also very successful for us. She also consistently had S&P A ratings for Kootenai Health relative to our performance. We just had such strong, stable financial performance under her leadership. And in addition to that, Kim was largely responsible for the formation of something called Kootenai Care Network, which is a growing organization. And of course, she helped restructure many of our joint ventures to be more modern and contemporary. And that is just a very short list of a very long list of contributions that Kim made. And I'll also say, sometimes with the CFO position, you focus on financial things, but during the middle of COVID-19, which is likely one of the most challenging periods in the history of Kootenai Health, Kim was instrumental in that whole process of helping us get through that difficult transition. So Kim, I just wanted to thank you for all of your outstanding work. And our new CFO, Michelle Bowie, is here, and she's online, and Kim has agreed to stay engaged with us through the end of the first week in January so we can transition a number of items. And Kim, thank you very much for that. So any other comments from board members or Kim?
I would love to comment.
Okay.
I just want to thank Kim on behalf of all of the trustees for a fabulous job you did. They are big shoes that you are leaving to be filled. And I have great faith we can do that, but your work's been marvelous and thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, oh, go ahead. Sorry. I can't see you guys.
Yeah, Kim, Bob, I'll add another thought or two. As you were working over the weekend on some things for us, for this committee or for this board, I think we appreciate all that you do for sort of the extra. But, my many years of working with lots of CFOs in my other roles, I've told you this before, you're as good as I've ever seen at what you do, so you will be missed. And you're more strategic in your thinking than almost any CFO I've ever seen. And so my compliments on that. And we do appreciate you delaying your own retirement to help us get through these sort of challenging times of the last year or so. And we appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, oh, go ahead, Dave.
Well, we've got more nice things to say about you. Dave Bobbitt.
I have to wait.
Madam Chairman and Kim, I want to thank you. I'm the chairman of the Finance Committee. I've worked very closely. And she's done a fantastic job for this hospital and this community. And you're going to be missed in the community and in the hospital. And I just commend you. And without belaboring the points of the rest of the board, I think even members of our Finance Committee, Liz and Cindy, you can echo those comments that she's just the best of the best. And we wish you the best in the future, Kim. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Kim,
So-
you can go now.
Okay, well, I just want to thank all of you for your kind words. It's a little overwhelming. And I really wish I could be there in person with you, all of you. And more than anything, I want to thank you all for your support and guidance over the years. It has truly been an honor serving as your CFO. And while I am extremely proud of all of our accomplishments, collective accomplishments, it's not really about the top line revenue growth for me or the buildings or the historical financial performance. It's about the people and the people that I've interacted with and all of those relationships that we've developed over the last 10 and a half years. And I consider most of you friends, and I hope to continue those friendships outside of work. And actually, I'm really looking forward to that. And with any luck, I'm going to be in the warm sunshine north of Tucson by mid-January, and I'm counting on many of you getting out of the snow and calling me up for a visit. So I do know that you're going to be in capable hands with our new CFO, Michelle. And my family is going to utilize healthcare services for many years, at least 6 months of the year at Kootenai. So your success and the continued high quality care are extremely important to me. And I know you're going to keep up the good work, and I want to thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Okay. The consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I need to propose an amendment to the consent agenda, and that's in the minutes of the January 6th special board meeting. On page 2, in answer to Ms. Godbeer's question, the record as it came to us was there is foreseen or anticipated impact to the frontline staff, and that should be, there is not.
There is not. And we have made that correction, I believe.
Yes.
Okay,
And
And-
I would support passing the consent agenda with that change in any of it.
okay,
I just have one.
okay.
In the minutes from my comments last week, I just wanted to include, of course, the titles of my roles at Kootenai.
Yeah.
And I think we've got that done as well. So Dr. McFarland, you're making a motion with those changes to the, okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Consent agenda has passed. So now, board business and, oh, thank you. I was gonna start looking for that. And it's our scheduled calendar for next year. Everybody's got it in your packets, just so you know what's going on and can get those dates written down.
Katie, could I just mention a couple things? So
Yeah.
annually at the December meeting, we approve the coming year's board calendar. Of course, the board certainly has the authority to change that going forward. So there's this extensive color-coded calendar with different meeting dates. I just wanted to highlight a couple things. Starting next year, we're going to go back to monthly finance committee meetings. And just wanted to kind of highlight in green, on the note below, the finance committee will be every month except February, November, and December. However, we would like to delay, Dave, the finance committee meeting in January so we can get better end of year numbers. And so we moved that first finance committee meeting of the year to February 1st. That makes sense. So that's one consideration. And then for July, the board meeting will take place on Wednesday, July 5th. Obviously, our meetings have traditionally been on Tuesdays due to the holiday and to prevent having only 3 weeks before the next meeting. So the July meeting will be July 5th.
Any questions, concerns? And we need a motion to approve that, correct?
Correct.
Can I get a motion to approve the calendar as presented?
Move to approve the new calendar for 2023.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, and so the next item on our agenda is a motion, appointment of district clerk. So I move that the Board of Trustees, Kootenai Hospital District, appoint Joel Hazel as the clerk of Kootenai Hospital District. And the purpose of this, there are numerous Idaho statutes applicable to the hospital district as a government entity, which require service upon a designated district clerk or transmittal of the district's acts and notices by a district clerk. Appointment of Joel Hazel as a district clerk permits him to fulfill these actions on behalf of the board and the district if necessary. And I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And no opposed. Okay. So is Linus on board?
Yes, he's here.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thanks, Linus. So you're going to go over a conversion timeline with us, correct?
Correct. Okay,
So
great. Great. Appreciate seeing everyone again, even if it's remote this time. Put together for the board's consideration and review a timeline of really the major milestones that we would be pursuing, assuming the board were to move forward with the conversion, and wanted to just give at a high level the kind of various work streams that would be going, the sequencing of them, and anticipated timeline. This is high level. I think what would be developed rather quickly is a more detailed work plan that breaks out a lot of these various work streams at a granular level, at an entity level, not just the hospital, but the various subsidiaries, what needs to take place in order to meet an effective date end goal. And also what assign, responsibility internally, externally, be it, Post-Nelly, Kaufman Hall, or what we're really going to try to do is to drive efficiencies, is to leverage the existing team and advisor that you've had historically. So as we go through this, we don't need to reinvent the wheel in certain areas and would rely on your historical advisors to assist with the conversion. So at a high level, this sets forth the process, and it starts at the top, which is we've done a considerable amount of due diligence already for purposes of the white paper. And as we talked about during those discussions, to identify if there are any, known barriers out there to consummating the conversion. And as we reported, we didn't find any. I think what we also said along the way is there's going to be plenty of hurdles, things that we have to deal with, but no absolute barriers to consummating this. There will be, but that's stated, so a lot of diligence has already gone into it. There will be additional diligence. So at the very top, in a condensed fashion, it's diligence over key items. The biggest area, we've touched on this in the past, is the contracts. We now have access to the 2,500 or so contracts of Kootenai Health. Those will be reviewed if we're really getting into a granular process. Those will be reviewed. We're going to work with a program we've used in healthcare transactions that just uses artificial intelligence to scan contracts and pull out relevant provisions, assignment, notice, and other key terms of contracts to ease, be more efficient, cut down on the number of people who have to review and the contracts. I think so. A mix of artificial intelligence to review these, but also working with your team to identify, and we already have the key contracts that we really want to be sure. These are your joint ventures, your electronic health records contracts, and the like, payer contracts that we'll want to actually lay eyes on and just make sure that we're meeting all the requirements. So initially, it'll be some more due diligence, development of a work plan. That's kind of the first step. And then it's simultaneously, some overlap, but we've got to prepare the definitive conversion documents as they're reflected in the proposed resolution. And those are, as we've talked about from the white paper, your governing documents. The governing documents of the foundation, of the subsidiaries, all need to be amended to reflect, the post-conversion structure. Simultaneously therewith, again, a lot of these overlaps. So licenses and permits, accreditations, we've already identified most of the key or all of the key licenses and what the requirements are, but there'll be some more diligence just to drill down all the way down to make sure we're, notifying appropriate regulatory bodies of the change. And when I say all the way down, there are things like elevator permits and the like that are less critical, but still important to get to at some point to ensure that any, and a lot of these may not have any substantial requirements other than sending in a notice letter, but we want to abide by whatever requirements are. So that's a work stream that'll be going on, commencing soon, going into March, April. The also documents to effectuate the transfer, as we talked about, the Idaho statute requires all assets and liabilities be transferred. There'll be a document to effectuate that, but we'll also need to work with Witherspoon, the firm you've worked with for years, to actually any leasehold interests or owned property. Again, working, since they've historically represented you in real estate matters, work with them to get any necessary transfers over to the foundation. The first step was looking at all those contracts. A little further down in the middle of this, it's actually preparing the consent and or notice letters, sending them out in a timely manner, and then it's a project management function of just ensuring we get back any necessary consent signed from the appropriate vendors, and that's a process that hopefully can be automated a little bit, as we talked about with our AI function that can, to spit addresses into a mail merge that cuts down a lot on the process. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to monitor who's returned what. And again, I think the approach here would be focusing on the key priority items and giving them most attention, at least initially, and then working the list down to the extent we get closer to the effective date, there are any outstanding consents. There's discussions going on, and again, another leveraging your existing employee benefits council, that's Davis Wright Tremaine, would be working with them just to ensure there are any employee benefits employee-related matters are addressed during this timeline, ensuring that benefit plans are appropriately migrated or established at the foundation that are, the same from a benefit perspective as those currently provided for the employees. So that's about a 120-day process, as we've been told. So that's, again, starting, assuming the board were to move forward almost immediately and going for the next couple of months. We've talked about, and with Foundations Council, as we've mentioned, we have to address the foundation tax-related matters, if you will, the tax exemption-related matters. So currently, the foundation is a nonprofit 501c3, but its purpose is philanthropic, foundation-related. There'll be filings needed with the IRS to convert this to, the qualification to an entity that can operate a hospital. That's, again, more forms, filing, a lot shorter timeline than having to set up a new 501c3, but there is a process, and that would start immediately working with Foundations Council. And of course, they're going to be commencing their own work stream, which will roll into the work plan of establishing the new 501c3 entity for the foundation moving forward. And I wish Kim well. The next one is the obtaining bondholder consent amendments, and I think she's been instrumental to date in working with the bondholders, and again leveraging your current counsel there, Chapman Cutler and Kaufman Hall. But I think Michelle could probably pick up the torch moving forward on this. But that process will be continuing on. It's been in play already, but it'll continue on for the next couple of months to ensure that all the bond related activities are addressed. And finally, the last, this really starts effective, if the board were to move forward all the way to the effective date, is there's just a myriad of operational, organizational, financial related matters involved in a conversion. None of these are, barriers to consummating the transaction, but there are just a myriad of things that need to take place in order to hit an effective date. Those all relate to finance, tax, payroll, making sure insurance policies are all in place as of the effective date. There's going to be continuing stakeholder meetings, physician, and other staff related meetings, just kind of the PR associated with ensuring all of this goes in a seamless manner and your stakeholders are brought along appropriately. Bank accounts, IT, there's just a lot of granular work that goes into this that, again, time consuming, but not overall a barrier to consummating the transaction. All of this will be laid out again in a more detailed work plan. And of course, we'd be working with administration on a daily, weekly basis, your external advisors, and of course, working with the board and bringing back material matters as they arise, should they arise, and keeping you apprised all the way along the process. So I'll pause there. It's high level overview.
Are there any questions for Linus? Well, it looks great. Thank you. Thank you so much for all the work that you have done to date. We look forward to an ongoing relationship. And also at this time, I want to thank the Kootenai Health Foundation and the members, the 14 members of their board, for giving us a unanimous nod to go ahead. And we really appreciate your taking part with us and having faith in us and doing all the right things. So thank you. So at this time, I'd like to go around and ask our board members for any final questions, concerns, comments that they may have regarding the transition. And I believe Steve is on the WebEx, so I'm going to start with Terry Farr, and please feel free to make comments or add whatever you'd like.
Okay. Well, I continue to believe that Kootenai Health is probably the most important institution in North Idaho, and our lives depend on her. This is the place where we find our greatest joys and our greatest sorrows often. And I think that this conversion is going to strengthen this hospital. The time ahead is filled with headwinds, and we have had so many challenges over the last several years, and those are going to continue to be something that we face. So I believe that this conversion is going to help strengthen us and put us in the best position that we can be in as we face those challenges. Finally, I believe that lives and livelihoods depend on this organization throughout North Idaho. And I will continue to do everything I can to support it and strengthen it.
Thanks, Terry. Bob Colvin.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, you all heard me last week talk about the model, how I think the model, right now we're under the tax district model, is basically obsolete for a hospital this size. And the more I look at it, the more I believe that is the case. Again, small community hospitals need tax district kind of structures to generate the tax support that's their livelihood. We've proven over the last 27 years that we can be self-sustaining without tax dollars. And hopefully that will be the case for the future. But to be able to do that, I think we need a more efficient model for us so we can get our best decisions made. We can deliberate very strategic issues as we need to very candidly as a board. And that takes a different model. And we have to move ahead with that model. I think we also give this conservative community something that most people talk about wanting, smaller government, by doing away with the tax district operation and taking away the risk of property taxes to support the hospital in the future. I think those are sort of, in my mind, big things. I know the talk's been about, are we moving too fast on this? And as I look at it, many of us have been exploring this for the last 6 or 7 months. Our consultant's been digging through this for the last 6 or 8 weeks. I believe the faster we go on this, the better we put it together, the quicker we move, the better. I look at what's going on with North Idaho College right now, and it's a disaster. And it really is malfeasance in office of the folks that are there, and it's creating severe issues with morale amongst the faculty and the staff. Can you imagine if that kind of approach was laid over this organization and the thousands of employees we have that are doing life and death work are having to worry about their jobs and the future of their organization? Bottom line is, if we move to the right model, which is the 501c3 not-for-profit, we can protect ourselves from some of that disruption that we're seeing elsewhere in our community. And we need to do that as quickly as possible. I'm not voting today because I'm not an elected member of this board. But I can tell you that I think there has to be a move on that, where we protect ourselves from that kind of disruption in our community and that frequent turnover of the elected cycle, the stronger we're going to make our organization going forward. So I think it is something we need to do right away. The other piece I'll raise, I know people have said to me, well, what about the other alternatives? Have you looked at selling the hospital to a for-profit? Or have you looked at about selling the hospital to an out-of-area not-for-profit? And the answer is yes, we've considered those scenarios and ruled them out pretty quickly because they don't really fit this community. And those people who think a for-profit sale would make sense haven't really looked at for-profit hospitals and how they relate to communities. I mentioned this last week. When Deaconess Hospital was sold to a for-profit entity, the subsequent few years of their operation starved them of capital because the corporate entity needed those dollars to make their bottom line work. And the local hospital was starved of capital for most of its existence under that for-profit model. It wasn't until a not-for-profit came back and took over, they were able to start reestablishing themselves. But I think the model works. I think the timing works. I think we've got the right due diligence steps here that Linus just walked through. And I think a positive vote today to make the transition makes sense.
Thank you. Dr. McFarland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I won't repeat the high-level considerations that my colleagues have done so well, but my personal role in this has been to ask a lot of detailed questions, and they were all aimed at making sure that the people of North Idaho got the best possible quality of care, and that our Kootenai Health family comes out of any transition that we might consider just as well off or better off than before. And I can tell you all my questions have been answered. And I believe that indeed this conversion would do what's most important to me and what's always my guiding star in all of these decisions, that it will provide the best quality of care for the people of North Idaho.
Thank you. Dave Bobbitt.
Yeah, I'm chairman of the finance committee. And one thing I didn't hear is 501Cs, national improved operating income. And I won't belabor my points because I think Gary, Robert, Dr. McFarland have said why they're supportive. I'm a non-voting member, but if I was to vote, I would vote strongly in favor of this. I think it's good, not only for the hospital, but more importantly, as it's already been said, for our community and for the citizens of Kootenai County, and a wider range of regional presence. We've changed, and we need to change with what we've changed to. So,
Thank you. And Steve Matheson, I know you're on board by WebEx, and so I would be interested in your 2 minutes worth of comments.
Am I the only one limited to a time period?
No, everybody's been limited to a time period.
I must have missed that at the beginning of the meeting. I'll try to keep it under 2 minutes if I can. I wish I could have been there, but I'm not feeling well right now. I have been consistent in my opposition with the approach the district has taken while simultaneously supporting the effort to earnestly study the advantages of transitioning to a private nonprofit model. I believe a better approach would have been working collaboratively with our community and the Idaho legislature rather than the more expedient route of capitalizing on a legislative snafu. Many times throughout this process, I have disagreed with the actions of the district, and now, through this resolution, the district is submitting a narrative of what has occurred throughout this evaluation process. Admittedly, I am frustrated, and I'd like to provide an alternative narrative to be included into the record. This evaluation process began with discussions of non-disclosure agreements while conducting secret deliberations in violations of Idaho open meeting laws. Only after filing a complaint with the prosecuting attorney's office and the beginning of an active investigation by the Coeur d'Alene Police Department, the district began to conduct deliberations in open session. The political motive for this transition has not been disclosed to the community. Although many may agree with this political justification, personal fears of electorate is no justification for disenfranchising 150,000 citizens in order to stifle the influence of a single political group. I acknowledge the concern, but I don't believe denying voters is ever the appropriate response. In voting for this, we are suggesting that the national issues impacting healthcare, such as nursing shortages, pandemics, and supply chain disruptions, can be addressed simply through a governmental change or a governance change. From our own white paper, the $350 million in capital expenditures, 140% increase in operating revenue, along with the many numerous awards involving patient care, were accomplished under the current governance structure. Nevertheless, apparently now is the time to pursue this organizational change. It does not matter that we are in the midst of implementing a significant financial recovery plan under an optimistic timeframe while seeking waivers of bond covenants, pursuing workforce expense reductions, executing a new medical record system conversion, and dealing with an already depleted staff. We're all planning to do this after we welcome a new CFO just last week. We should be focusing on limiting our limited staffing resources exclusively on meeting the needs of our patients, employees, and improving the financial performance of the district and leaving governance for changes for later. No one can convincingly argue the community has been given adequate time to thoughtfully consider this conversion. As a trustee, I still have many unanswered questions regarding the proposed new governance structure and the purported benefits. We are deciding today to convey an $800 million operating company that was created by the generosity of Kootenai County citizens 65 years ago. We should return the trust the community placed with this governing board and humbly ask for their consent. I oppose this motion and I ask for a roll call vote.
Thank you. Liz, God be here?
I mean, I feel like my sentiments are echoed by my fellow board members mostly. And this is my community hospital. I've worked here since 2001. And I don't think any of us make this decision lightly, but healthcare has changed in 20 years that I've been doing it. And Kootenai has changed. And I think this is the best way to support the families that are moving here, the generations that come behind us. And I feel positive about it. And I think that that's the only way that Kootenai can remain competitive.
Thank you. Dr. Datar?
So I would echo a lot of the comments made in terms of the need to address our challenges of the growing population here in North Idaho and reduced workforce. So we've had many months to study this. So I think there's always a certain amount of uncertainty in the future, and that has all of us a little bit concerned. The financial challenges that the hospital has had to kind of address with COVID has been COVID and other just the entire workforce change and the lack of staff. You add those all together, creates a very challenging environment. And so I think the questions that all the board members have posed have been thoughtfully looked at seriously for the last many months. So I don't feel rushed in this. I think it's our duty as elected representatives to study these issues and to the best of our ability, make a good decision based on our conscience of what is right for our patients. And fundamentally, it's what do we think is going to provide the best care for the most patients here in North Idaho. And so I think there's uncertainty in my mind in terms of how is this going to go forward in an already stressed environment, but I see it as the best way forward.
Thank you. Cindy Clark?
I look at this with the statement being made that we are rushing through this decision. I think that the state legislature has already spoken. It was a unanimous decision that we be given this opportunity to look into what we're doing and see if what we should be doing is different. It's not something that is brand new across the country. Hospital district after hospital district has changed to a 501c3 plan. We're one of the few, as has been stated many times, that are left. The fact that there has been a decision made to ask the sheriff's department to examine what we're doing, I welcome that examination. We have all been honest and diligent about what we're doing. There is not a thing I worry about. So the fact, everything that was said here, I concur. Absolutely. And we are the same board that's going to be, if we vote to pass this, it's the same board that's going to be doing what we were doing before with the new entity. So we're not taking the money and running. we're gonna run this hospital the way we've been doing. And, we made it through COVID. We were the premier and primary caretakers for COVID patients in northern Idaho and beyond. And we made it through in a way that many, many, many hospitals in the country did not. For a single entity to do that is just unbelievable. So I'm here, I'm ready to vote.
Great, thank you, Cindy. And my comments, I think everybody has heard my comments for months. I feel like I've been on a soapbox saying what a great idea this is and how proud I am of the hospital that we're here. Steve, I have to take exception with you. I do not believe there was a legislative snafu at all. It was our legislators all voted unanimously to pass this bill, both in the House and in the Senate. So legislative snafu, I'm probably not going to buy that. So
May I respond? May I respond to that comment since you directed it towards me, Chair?
I think we'll go on, Steve. I didn't mean to cause an issue. I just wanted a point of clarification. So we will go on, and I have a resolution that I would like to read. And it is fairly lengthy, so don't nod off anybody. So the Kootenai Hospital District Resolution of the Board of Trustees, December 13th, 2022. Whereas for over 60 years, Kootenai Hospital District, the district, has provided comprehensive health care services to the residents of Kootenai County, Idaho, and surrounding communities, including through the operation of a full-service acute care center, the hospital, and other critical access hospitals, facilities, and related healthcare businesses, the Kootenai Health subsidiaries, and together with the district, Kootenai Health. Whereas over the past few years, financial challenges such as rising labor costs and border industry transformation have disproportionately impacted hospital systems, including Kootenai Health. And as a part of its overall responsibility for the operations of Kootenai Health, the Kootenai Health Board of Trustees, the board, has engaged in a thorough process of reviewing, evaluating, and discussing options to position Kootenai Health to best address the current and future fiscal and other challenges it's facing. Whereas earlier this year, the Idaho House and Senate unanimously passed House Bill 603, and the governor of Idaho, acting on behalf of the residents of Idaho, signed the bill into law on March 24th, 2022, to be effective July 1, 2022, the Idaho statutes. Whereas the stated legislative purpose of the Idaho statutes was to allow district hospitals the same options already available to county hospitals in Idaho to lease or sell property to a qualified nonprofit, a conversion transaction for the continuity of service in the community and provide options for district hospitals to enable them to address future fiscal challenges, the legislative purpose. Whereas following passage of Idaho statutes and in light of the legislative purpose, the board decided to further evaluate the options the Idaho statutes afforded the district to address Kootenai Health's strategic, financial, and other challenges and circumstances. And as a part of that process, the board asked its legal and financial advisors to prepare a white paper entitled Conversion from a Public Hospital District to a Nonprofit 501c3 Hospital Evaluation, a copy of which is attached here too, the white paper. Whereas the white paper sets forth the strategic, operational, and legal considerations of a potential conversion transaction, as well as provides a transactional and governance framework for a conversion transaction involving the district, whereby consistent with the Idaho statutes. 1, the district would convey all of Kootenai Health's assets, liabilities, and operations to the existing Kootenai Health Foundation, a qualified Idaho nonprofit tax exempt organization, the existing foundation. Number two, following the conversion, the legal entity operating Kootenai Health would be the existing foundation, which would be rebranded as Kootenai Health, and Kootenai Health would be then operated as a non-governmental tax exempt nonprofit organization. Number three, on or before the effective date of the conversion, the existing foundation would establish a new nonprofit tax exempt entity, the new foundation, and all donor-related funds held by the existing foundation would be conveyed to the new foundation to be used in all cases consistent with any donor restrictions and to continue its mission of being different page, different copy. Excuse me, and to continue its mission of being a supporting organization, and four, consistent with the Idaho statute, the initial board of trustees post-conversion would be the same individuals as those currently serving on the board, all as more fully described in the white paper, collectively the structural framework. Whereas to provide full transparency and further discussions with and input from Kootenai County citizens and business leaders, the white paper has been made available to the public online. The public's been afforded an opportunity to submit questions regarding the white paper and potential conversion transaction. And Kootenai Health has held several public meetings to discuss, review, and seek input from the community regarding the white paper and a potential conversion transaction. Whereas with assistance from Kootenai Health strategic advisors and legal counsel, Kootenai Health administration, KH administration, has evaluated the strategic and legal considerations associated with the conversion transaction, and based on its review of the white paper and other available information, they have determined and recommended to the board that it would be in the best interest of Kootenai Health, the employees of Kootenai Health, the providers associated with Kootenai Health, and the communities and patients served by Kootenai Health to initiate and pursue a conversion transaction consistent with the structural framework. Whereas the board of directors of the existing foundation, the foundation board, has evaluated the strategic and legal considerations associated with the conversion transaction, and based on its review of the white paper and other available information at a meeting held on December 12, 2022, approved initiating and pursuing a conversion transaction consistent with the structural framework. Whereas the board has considered Kootenai Health administration's recommendation, reviewed the white paper and other information presented by Kootenai Health administration, financial advisors, and legal counsel, and has discussed the advantages and disadvantages of the conversion transaction at this meeting of the board, and has determined that it would be in the best interest of Kootenai Health, its employees, and the communities and patients served by Kootenai Health to initiate and pursue a conversion transaction consistent with the structural framework in reliance on the Idaho statutes, and that such conversion transaction would serve to further the mission of Kootenai Health and ensure the provisioning and expansion of quality health care to Kootenai County and surrounding communities now and into the future. Whereas in consideration of the foregoing, the board desires to approve initiating and proceeding with implementing the conversion transaction consistent with the structural framework, and authorize and empower John Ness, Chief Executive Officer of Kootenai Health, the Kootenai Health CEO, and Kootenai Health Administration to take such actions as may be necessary to finalize such definitive agreements, including, without limitation, preparing amendments to the governing documents of the Kootenai Health subsidiaries, to reflect the conversion transaction as may be necessary or advisable to consummate the conversion transaction. Collectively, the definitive conversion documents, subject to the board's approval of such definitive conversion documents prior to the execution or delivery thereof. And whereas, as reflected in the white paper, effectuating the conversion transaction will be an involved and labor-intense process. And while it's not anticipated that the conversion transaction will result in any material or extraordinary circumstances with respect to Kootenai Health's operations, to the extent such matters should arise, resolutions of any such matters will be subject to the board's review and prior approval. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board hereby approves proceeding with implementing the conversion transaction consistent with the structural framework, and hereby authorizes and empowers the Kootenai Health CEO and such other members of Kootenai Health Administration as may be designated by the Kootenai Health CEO from time to time to prepare such definitive conversion documents under the direction and oversight of the board as they may deem necessary or advisable in their reasonable discretion to consummate the conversion transaction, subject to 1, board's approval of such definitive conversion documents prior to the execution or delivery thereof, and 2, the board's review and prior approval related to the resolution of any material or extraordinary circumstances that may arise as a result of implementing the conversion transaction. Further resolved that any prior actions taken reasonably and in good faith by the officers and directors of the district in connection with the potential conversion transaction prior to the date hereof are hereby ratified and approved. And further resolved, subject to the limitations set forth in this resolution, that the Kootenai Health CEO and other members of Kootenai Health Administration are hereby each severally authorized in the name of and on behalf of the district to execute, file, and deliver all instruments and other documents contemplated by these resolutions, and to take any and all further action which they may deem necessary or desirable to otherwise carry out the purposes and intent of these resolutions, and the execution by any such person of any such documents, or the performance by any such person of any such act in connection with the foregoing matter shall conclusively establish its authority thereof from the district, and the approval and ratification by the district of the documents so executed and the action so taken. So at this time, I would like a motion to approve Kootenai Hospital District Resolution.
I'll move.
Second,
I'll second.
it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay, I would like a roll call vote, please. Katie, you have to do a roll call if it's asked for.
I am doing a roll call. Steve, thank you. So Terry? Aye. Bob?
Recuse myself as an appointed
Oh,
member.
that's right. Sorry. Dr. McFarland?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Dr. Ditar?
Aye.
Cindy? Aye. Aye.
Steve.
Steve?
Nay.
I'm absolutely blank.
Thank you.
I'm so tired of anything.
Resolution passes.
The resolution passes.
The resolution has passed. Thank you very much. Thank you all for lots of hard work and being there. And it's been really important to have the support of the foundation. Thank you again. And again, I want to thank this board for lots of due diligence and for always doing the right thing and always having the right objectives in mind, which are the patients of this county and the broader region. So, okay, what do you think about a recess, 5-minute recess? Does that sound really
Good
good?
idea.
I'm done. Toast. More whereases than